Robin, issue 14 is the next part of Shadow War. Joshua Williamson writing again, Roger Cruz on art this time. So the big thing at the end, obviously, is the reveal of who it is, right? And we build up to it throughout the issue. But there's actually a lot of other things in this issue I like and think are notable. So they're going with Batman Inc. to try and stop the Shadow War, try and stop Slade and Talia from killing each other. There's some battle fights going on with them, so it does feel like a bit more of a war, this issue. Deathstroke and Talia go toe-to-toe. They have some, mean words. He calls Damien, like, Batman and Talia's little bastard and things like that. He's definitely not pulling back. There's a moment later on when Ghostmaker and Angel Breaker, like, meet each other. They clearly know each other, and she has a line to the effect of you say you're better than Batman, but you just wanted to make me your Catwoman before they start fighting. I got an odd chuckle out of that, not because I necessarily think it's good, but because it was kind of this weird, like, yeah, that's what's wrong with you. You're just as shit as him because you're both like like crappy copies of better characters.
Yeah, I thought this was really cringy and just highlighted the problem. I kind of, it was rough, that writing for me.
Yeah, that moment. The moment I did love, though, I actually really love Damien and his balls when he decides to jump out the plane. Batman's not giving him a glider. He's like, no, I need you safe. You're going back to Gotham. You're not going down for this fight. And Damien's like, you're going to have to trust me one way or the other. And he just leaps out the plane. I actually thought this moment was kind of badass for Damien. So obviously Batman has to jump out and like stop him from dying. But the idea that, well, now we're on the ground, so tough tits, I'm here. So
I like the end result. I like Damien jumping out. A lot of the actual argument before he jumps, I felt was a little bit forced, perhaps. Like just the idea of Bruce being like, "No, you're staying behind. This is too dangerous." Does like kind of feels that character. If he'd said because this is too personal for you with Talia, and Rose is down there, like stuff like that. I could see him going that route, but just too dangerous, and that being the cause of the argument, and Robin having to respond along those lines kind of made it feel like a bit of a forced argument for the sake of some drama to give Damien a reason to just jump out. I like the end result, but the page was kind of a bit weird for me.
I don't know, it is a bit of a bullshit argument from Batman, but I think that's kind of the point, is that it is bullshit. And Damien kind of tries to very quickly swerves it into, is this about Alfred? Is this about, and Batman, he gets to kind of apologize for that shitty thing he said a few issues ago, because he said it was, if he was there, Alfred would never have died. And he's like, look, that was a shitty thing to say. Alfred's death was never your fault. It was mine because I should have been there. But no, I like this moment. I thought that was a really good big beat. And it made Damien come off like a little badass. So they run in. I do like that, immediately Rose like sort of like first of all saves Damien because like he's about to be ambushed by a ninja, but then kind of tells him about Respawn, and this is again another death for Damien to deal with, because obviously he wasn't super attached to him yet, but this was kind of like a brother. He was kind of like forming something with him and his brief interaction with him. So this again is another person that's died because of what's went down between characters. And it's interesting that Talia is to blame for that death, actually. This under her orders that, everything's going down. So, they come in and the writers give Talia the victory here. It seems like Deathstroke's won. She catches the sword as it's coming down for her. This is a decent page, action-wise, I thought. And then stabs Deathstroke as she yells, "I am the dragon." Because he said she was chasing the dragon before. So it did make sense in context. It wasn't just a silly...
It did, yeah.
Because obviously you'd probably be thinking Demon would make more sense, but it was set up in the previous page.
Yeah, it was contextual.
But yeah, so at this point, like he didn't kill grandfather. Damien tells Talia, and she's like, well, so like at this point she was just happy to kill him. And obviously Rose has to deal with the fact that her father seemingly lying there dead. Obviously, I suspect that Deathstroke will somehow.
I mean, he has a healing factor, and there's a Lazarus pit knocking around, if not.
That is very true. And that's when fake Deathstroke comes in. And there was a nice tease actually in the last issue, in Deathstroke Inc. that he's hiding his accent when he was talking to Batman and Robin, which did get me thinking. I was like, oh, where's he from? You know, trying to make me think of who it was. So the big reveal here, though, as it starts to be a bit of an earthquake, which is a bit of a clue as well. He takes off his mask, and the final page reveal is that this is Geoforce. And it sort of builds up to it as well, because he starts talking about his country. He starts talking about Markovia. So it's not like it builds up. So if you know who this is, if you're familiar with Geoforce, you'll sort of like get it right before the page reveals. I mean, I'm okay with this reveal. Like, I don't necessarily know exactly what his motivations are yet. He's obviously speaking very vaguely about, what Tally and Deathstroke have done to his family and his country and whatever. But I'm sure we'll get more concrete stuff on it. No pun intended. Next issue.
It feels like, sure, he has some level of motivation, like Talia and Deathstroke have done things, but this still feels like maybe it's excessive.
On his part, you think it's excessive that he's got to this length?
This is a very elaborate plan.
Okay. I did enjoy the reveal. I enjoyed who this was, because I think I was partially worried it was going to be another either I think Grant was like somehow Grant's back and he's the fake Deathstroke, or there was like those thoughts running through my head that it was going to be someone related to either Deathstroke, Batman, or Talia, right? It was going to be someone related to them. I was kind of pleased that it's like, oh no, it's a character that we've not seen too much of in a long time, and it brings with him his own mythology and history with the Titans and Markovia. All that stuff is more interesting to me than it being like some other basically I was worried it was going to be like who Respawn turned out to be, which
another one of them.
Yeah, which I didn't hate. Like ultimately it worked out all right, but like
I'm glad it didn't, because that was essentially what they pulled in Batman Inc. with the other Robin clones.
Right? Yeah. So, but it was definitely not as exciting as when we were theorizing who that Deathstroke kid could be, in the Robin tournament. So I'm happy that this turned out to be, this is actually a character who has a history, who we can talk about, and when we get some more context of his motivations, we can sort of discuss if that works, if it doesn't, do we like it, do we not, whatever.
At face value on the reveal, I don't hate it. I'm not like super pumped for it, but if they give me some good context in the next issue, I'll be totally fine with it.
All right, what are you rating Robin 14?
I think I'll give it a 7. I think it's better than the previous issue. I think that it helps that it's coming towards a conclusion, so it's starting to actually give some answers. And I think the art is significantly better than Pantalina's art, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I give it a I might be tempted to stretch this to an 8. I liked some of the stuff earlier on more than you did with Robin and Batman, and I dig that this actually felt like there was actually the Shadow War was happening finally. It felt like there was actually a conflict like playing out in a big battle, and I enjoyed Rose and Damien's interactions again, and them talking to her interaction with Batman, and then ultimately the fight with Talia and Slade. I think was mostly pretty good. I think the ending of it was particularly well handled and felt quite I don't know if epic's the right word, but it felt like a nice tense fight where like she got a one up at the end, so it felt kind of cool. Maybe it's because that sword like catch move was very similar to the season 2 finale of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.